Shalom, welcome to Tzfat, the ear of Jewish mysticism, the city of Jewish mysticism in the Upper Galil. I'm R Avraham Shira, and we're here for a holy Shabbat. And, you know, I happen to be renting an apartment, and it has this painting on the wall behind me, and I said, well, I have to get this in a shot, you know. This, of course, is the basic way that the tree of life is presented, the 10 sfirot. You don't see all 10 here because there's one behind my head and one a bit further down. And the 10 sfirot, of course, are 10 energy centers of the soul. And this is the skeleton of all that follows in the Kabbalah. When you know these 10 powers in your soul, you know that they are you and you are them, shall we say, then you automatically, by knowing that, attach your mind to the Creator through His traits. Because these are traits that we didn't make. These are traits that we receive. And the more we practice what these traits represent, the more we become channels of them. And when you become a channel of a godly power, well, guess what? That makes you a godly person. And that's really the point that God gave us the Torah, was to become like Him, like those who are made in the image of God. B'Tselem Elokim asa otam. God made us, male and female, in the image of the Creator. And the image is this collection of powers. Now, the Sefer Yetzirah, the holy book of creation that's attributed to Avraham Avinu, one of the oldest books of Kabbalah, says, teach your mouth not to speak of them. Don't speak of them. Why? Because the minute you speak of them, you limit them. Speech itself, you see, is a contraction of energy through your mind, through your heart, in the garment of your heart, and then out of your mouth. So you're contracting the energy of a thought into speech. While your thought is still active with an idea, it's expanded. But as we bring it down into speech, to express it to the world, it gets contracted. Now that's a good thing because we want to share knowledge, we want to share wisdom, but at the same time, as you contract knowledge or the energy of your mind, it automatically brings you to a lower level, from the level of mind to the level of speech, and ultimately to the level of action. Now those contractions of the power are necessary, but they're not the goal. The goal is the expansion of the power to create a new vessel to receive more of these powers that you see above. Now, I entitled this shiur the lifestyle of Kabbalah, and connected with Shabbat, of course. Lifestyle of Kabbalah, what does that mean? A holy lifestyle. What is a lifestyle? You know, it's a fancy phrase for how you live. You know, I have a millionaire's lifestyle. So that means something to people. You know, it means a certain amount of ease, a certain amount of wealth, a certain amount of property, a certain amount of objects, entertainments, all kinds of things. It's a lifestyle. You know, what you do on Friday night is part of your lifestyle. And you know, it's a very interesting notion as I think about it over the years, that my lifestyle has changed because of the Torah, and especially because of Kabbalah, is that I don't feel I'm missing out on anything. And when I was engaged in the other lifestyle, the New Orleans lifestyle, the Manhattan lifestyle, the LA lifestyle, you always had this feeling you were missing on something. Like, what's going on over there? Why is it not good enough by me? Why am I not happy enough to not worry about what's happening on the other side of the club? You follow what I'm saying? So there's a lack that's built into a material lifestyle. There's a limitation. And that's also a constriction or a contraction of your soul, of your light. If I'm worried about 9 to 5, 24/7, money, pleasure, more money, more pleasure, and resting somewhere in between, then that's a very contracted, a very limited lifestyle. In the spiritual lifestyle, we don't say you can't have physical pleasure. We don't say you can't have material pleasures in terms of the car you drive, or the food you eat, or the clothes you wear. But rather we say, have measures, set healthy boundaries. You don't need to date every woman in the city. You need to find the best one for you. And you don't need to eat the entire side of the cow. You just need to find the rib that works, that last hamburger, right? And so on and so forth. The entire physical world is meant for our pleasure. And this is something that religion has skewed. I'm sorry to say this, but all the major religions have made physical pleasures look like evil pursuits. And they're not. The Ramchal, the holy Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto from Italy, 300 years ago said, God created us to give us pleasure. Because when we receive pleasure, he gets pleasure. How do you know this? Because when I eat ice cream, I'll get a certain amount of pleasure, let's say, but when I give that ice cream to my grandson, wow, I watch him and I get more pleasure than I ever could from ice cream. And so to Hashem, when he gives us pleasure, it's a greater pleasure for him to experience, to see us having pleasure from his creation. And so when we understand it this way, we don't live in this constricted realm of this formal exile religious construct that says pleasures are bad, we only want to live in a very circumscribed way, and you're not allowed to buy a new silk suit, and you're not allowed to have a Mercedes, and you're not allowed to eat at the best restaurant. No, that's not true. But you are required to have boundaries. And the boundaries, of course, are in the halacha. The boundaries tell us what is the proper food to eat because of kashrut, not because of how much it costs. And the same with clothes, and the same with everything, including our speech. Right? Our speech says, in holiness, we cry out, we scream, we raise our hands. We just don't do it for footballs and basketballs. We do it for the infinite light to come down into the world and save humanity. We do it because of the great joy of a young couple getting married. We do it because a young man is passing into his obligation to God called bar mitzvah. Right? That's when we get excited, because those are things that are life transformative. Now, winning a game, winning the Super Bowl, it's a big deal for the people, I imagine, for the people that win. Right? But it's not a life changer for most of humanity. It's not an essential thing that all of us are engaging in. So the Kabbalah lifestyle is simply helping us balance and arrange in a healthy, constructive, focused order the qualities of life. And these 10 qualities, as you see depicted behind me, each of them represents a power in the soul. Now, it's interesting, if you look at the chakras that are presented and taught in Hinduism, you'll see that there are powers in the soul too, but they all represent a straight line through the body. And actually, that straight line does exist in the structural evolution of the worlds that's described in the Kabbalah. But at a certain point, that straight line couldn't hold the light because it wasn't sharing to each other. And that's called the Olam Akudim. In Hebrew, that means to bind. The worlds, the powers. Can you imagine if you had all these powers in your soul and you could do anything, and it was all tied up and you couldn't access your own power? So the levels of the soul broke, and they created 3 lines, as you see them depicted behind me. So the 3 lines mean there's a right and a left and a middle. That gives me the ability to share, the ability to give and to receive. If I'm a straight line, I have no latitude left or right. And so this is a big difference between Jewish mysticism and some of the older and ancient Eastern religions, is their depiction of the construct of the soul. But the Torah holds this to be not only the construct of our soul, it's the powers that create the entire universe. Okay, so it's happening at the human level, it's happening at the cosmic level, it's happening at the animal level, at the plant level, the mineral level, and all the way on out into the super clusters of galaxies that you can never count. All of them are reflecting this same structure. So what we say when we're living according to the Kabbalah, what you're doing is your lifestyle becomes a reflection of structure. Now, it's not a binding thing, but rather it's an expansive thing because I'm able to access my power properly. I know when I need to act with gevurah and strength and might and resolve and resistance. And I know when I have to act with chesed and kindness and patience. And I know when I need faith, and I know when I need kingship, and each of the powers is available to us when we know that they're there, and we align ourselves to them through meditation and prayer. So this is a big part of the work. And when you choose this path, you're choosing a lifestyle. But let's know what we're talking about, because religion has a bad rap in our generation, I'm afraid to tell you all, folks. The religion that has been passed down to us is a broken thing. Now, that doesn't mean I don't hold by all the orthodox laws and the rabbis. But when the negative is emphasized over the positive, then I have a problem. Because there's so much positive. There's so much more pleasure in the service of God that is presented when you first go to that class and the rabbi tells you about all the things you can't do. Don't tell anybody about all the things you can't do. First tell them what we do. Tell them about Shabbat. Because Shabbat is the beginning of our lifestyle. Now, because we don't do anything. And it's a religion that tells us not doing is the greatest thing that you can do for God on Shabbat. Not doing is making yourself into a vessel to receive a much higher light than you can receive all week long when you are in the world of doing. Is that clear? It's a bit of a turn, in words, that you do things all week long, and then by not doing, you're actually doing the greatest service to reflect the presence of God in the world. And so this paradox, apparent paradox, is, it's based on the structure of these worlds again, because we say that each of these 7 lower powers corresponds to one of the 7 days of the week. And each day has its own power. And as each day turns from Sunday to Monday, the power comes down from sphere to sphere to sphere. And then at the end of the week, all the powers gather together and then join with Shabbat. And that's what we call the marriage or the union of the male and the female powers, those that give and those that receive, happens on Shabbat. So Shabbat is a lifestyle that's constructed around the entire formation of the universe. It's not just a day that God says rest. It's a time and place where we want to go above time and place. And it's because of the way God's light, I was going to use the word trickle. It trickles down into the world. But, we don't worry about the lexicon now. The point is that we can't take infinite light too much at one time or it's going to hurt us. And you can see people like this walking around Jerusalem every day. Their eyes are in the sky, their feet are not on the ground, and they're constantly talking to something in space. A lot of those people access the light of God too fast, too soon, and it actually shattered the partitions of their mind. Now you see these lines that connect the Sefirot? Those lines are the actual 22 letters of the Aleph Bet. Those letters are the place that the Sefirot are contracted into. So you have this power, Netzach, the idea of eternal victory, that God is going to win. God always wins. It's just that He makes us wait, and we don't like to wait. But that power called Netzach, it needs to be channeled somewhere, and it's channeled, as you see these white lines, into the letters that connect to the other powers. So there's this constant reconnection of the lights. And the Aleph Bet, the 22 letters of the Hebrew language, are those connectors. So what's really amazing is when you meditate on those letters, they actually expand in your mind and they open your heart. And then they release their power inside you. And if that sounds a little bit too much, too fast, it might be. Each person in their own place. If you're an experienced meditator, and if you've sat in ashrams for years, or you've gone to yoga classes for years and practiced various breathing and meditation exercises, then you've already created part of the vessel necessary to enter what is called Kabbalistic meditation. Because there is the technique and there is what you focus the technique on, right? And you need technique, but you also need to know what you're focusing on and what you're trying to achieve through your meditation. And so, my daughter once asked me, what's the difference between Jewish and non-Jewish meditation? I said, well, Jewish meditation, the idea is to bring down new light from God. And as far as I've experienced, and I had many years working with non-Jewish meditation because I wasn't religious my whole life. And there, the goal seemed to be centering and peacefulness and mindfulness and a lot of really good qualities. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to know what God wanted from me. I wanted to hear the God speak. I mean, what is this religion? One way I talk and he listens. Why doesn't God talk back? Well, actually, in Kabbalah, you learn that he does talk back. And I'll be publishing a new book called The Path of Personal Prophecy. You'll be able to order it on Amazon or Kindle. And in that book, we talk about this very idea, that we are in a two-way street relationship with God. He gives and we receive, we give and he receives. And we speak in prayer and in conversation, and he speaks to us through anything that he wants to speak through. Because the entire creation contains vessels of his power of communication. So it can be speech, and you can hear it, or visions when you see them, or music when you hear that, or sometimes the birds, they have messages too, if you know how to listen. But don't jump too fast into that one. But there are stories about this, and there are teachings in Kabbalah about how you can understand the communications of other creatures besides human beings. That's not a strange thing. Of course, everything has a voice, but we're just not in tune to the voice of creation. And that voice is attached to the one who's giving it the voice. Because God doesn't have one voice. God is all the voices. And we become the receiver of his voice through ours. And that's why it says God spoke to Moses face to face. Because God put his face in Moses' face. He put his voice in Moses' voice. So that's the nature of prophecy, is where God overrides your system and he communicates through you. Now all of this, a lot of prophecies actually took place on Shabbos. If you look throughout the Jewish canon of literature, and it will tell you different days when prophets did receive their prophecies. And Shabbat and the Yom Tov, the festival days, were special days for receiving divine inspiration. So, if you have a lifestyle, enjoy your lifestyle. Bring God into your lifestyle. But if you're looking for a lifestyle, there's one that's very, very special. There's one that guides every moment to bring you closer to your ultimate goal. And that is to reveal God in the world through you, through your soul. Because there's a spark inside you waiting to be born. So we're going to continue these teachings next week on all the platforms. And I want to bless everyone to have a holy, happy, peaceful Shabbat. Take your time, think slowly, breathe slowly, walk slowly, eat slowly, drink slowly. And you will see that you are creating a vessel to go above time and space. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom.